At the edge of the universe, 400 men and women are probing the immeasurable blackness of space. Their leaders are an Earthman with no fear and a stranger with no heart. Travel beyond our time and solar system, into new galaxies, into worlds beyond your dreams. Star Trek, every week, in color.
Oh my goodness gracious. Serious Star Trek. It's Tuesday, July 13th. It's 3 p.m. Pacific Earth time. We're back on the USS Fred Mertz here with the crew. Ready to talk about what? About Star Trek, but there's no Star Trek yet. Oh, but we're on the cusp of Star Trek. So it's our last chance to get all the speculation about what kind of garbage is going to be this season or how great it's going to be. Will Anson Mount, how cutesy will he get this season? Like, can he top his cutesy self? Let's ask the experts. Let's bring in your captain and mine, Captain Fun, Larry Young. Hey, Larry.
Hey, Dan. How are you?
And you know him, you love him, the doctor, Dr. Johnny Price, PhD.
Hi, guys.
Hey, now.
All right, I'm fantastically excited to talk about Anson Mount and James Gunn. Did you guys hear about this? James Gunn said some shit about like actors. Like, hey, everybody, you know what? You need to like stand up tall and stand up right. Some bullshit. I don't know. I forget. Nice. But Anson Mount like lost his mind. He's like, hey, man, talking about that is like making fun of women. I wish I could read both of them for you because that's obviously my summation. But basically, James Gunn was talking as a director and going, oh, I like this guy because he's this tall, and with other actors in the scene, he's the motive power, and the light hits his face just right, like a director, right? And Anson Mount is like, hey, man, I'm trying to help you tell your story, like as an actor. So why are you shitting on actors? Oh. And it was such a case of a guy talking about inside baseball and another guy reading it and going, why doesn't he like cornflakes in the morning? You know what I mean? Because they were coming at it from two different directions, and it was great. Because now I'm like, ooh, I just witnessed a generations-long beef happen over nothing. This is great.
So tell me this one, guys, about James Gunn. I think he's a fantastic director. Like his aesthetic is so fun and interesting, like realistic and violent, but yet fun and goofy. But how did that guy escape the utter cancelhood that he was completely like drummed out, thrown out, and then now he's back and promoted to the head of a whole cinematic unit? That doesn't happen that rarely, that somebody gets like ostensibly fired, but then just like totally undone. Do you guys know the details on that stuff?
I actually have an opinion on that.
Yeah.
So James Gunn, right? He made Marvel $1 billion every time he directed a movie. And then whoever was running Disney, I forget, panicked and went, oh my God, this guy called somebody a cunt 8 years ago.
Right.
Well, the rest of the planet went, oh my God, you had to go back 8 years before he called somebody some names? That's like a Cal Ripken level of being cool. Right. And then when he got bounced, instead of crying about it like literally everybody else would, he went, that's going to happen. And then didn't say a word. I mean, he probably cried about it to every one of his friends, but in public, he didn't say a word. And so every tick of the clock that went by, whoever that guy was that fired him, kept looking like an asshole. Wow, James Gunn's just going to make $1 billion for DC now. Like, you really miscalled that one. And so after a couple of years, especially with Bautista and all the other people going, Bautista was like, I'm contractually obligated, but fuck you. Like, you don't want to hear that from a cast member. And all the other cast members went, we understand how this works, but we're not going to do it if you don't use his script. So his name's going to be all over it. So you might as well have him come direct it because, come on. And so that guy went, oh, well, I really appreciated the professional manner in which James Gunn handled himself. So we're going to welcome him and his $1 billion a movie back with open arms because he's learned his lesson. And the whole thing was just. Did you see that? You guys saw that Arnold thing. John and I were talking about it. That whole thing was schmay. Yeah. It was schmay.
I love
that he gave me that word because that's what it is. It's some untranslatable Australian thing where you just put on an act and everybody knows what's really going on.
Yeah.
And that's what it was.
I mean, I figured it boiled down to his bankability and lack of anything other than like speech offenses that like he did handle it in a pretty classy way, as I remember, just being like, I said what I said. It was kind of dumb.
Yeah.
I wish I hadn't said it, but I said it.
I don't even think it was a money thing. I think James Gunn was out of fucks. It's like, really? If that's what you're going to get, I'm going to go take my $1 billion movie somewhere else. And he did.
What surprised me is that he could, like, I don't know, after such a scandal and that moment that we lived in during that scandal.
But it's not a scandal. That's the thing, right? Who on earth hasn't called somebody an asshole about something at some point, right? And if it was 8 or 10 years ago, your normal person is going to go, well, that guy probably deserved it, didn't he?
I'll tell you, if you want to get called an asshole, Larry, here's what you do. You go on the internet and you say, hey, I just realized that the Temple of Doom is a prequel to Raiders of the Lost Ark. Go on there and say that like it's a huge thing. And then like everybody who's a normal person, everybody on the normal spectrum was like, mind blown. I never, what? Who in the, huh? And then these mega nerds start coming out and start crapping. And it's like, oh my, Dan, where have you been since 1984 on that one? But I'm sorry, it's not that obvious.
It's not.
I think it's funny.
Fair, it's not.
I think it's funny you think it's mega nerds and not just people who like Raiders of the Lost Ark and can read.
No, I know because I have asked 20 people since then, and it's only my non-internet. Dude, it was you and like a writer for Starlog magazine that we both know there. I mean, come on. That's a different category of people that automatically knew that.
Was it people under 40? Was it people who knew that Raiders of the Lost Ark was a movie?
Older people. Dude, it's not that obvious. I don't care what anybody says. It's not that, especially if you're not looking out. And I realized what could have made it more obvious, and I think would have improved the movie, was if they had brought back Belloc from Raiders and given him so we see the setup sort of for the hatred that and actually, and I was reading on the article about the actor, and he's like, they had a deal, they were going to bring him in, and they changed the script at the last minute. That was going to be
George Lucas.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I can't get excited about something from the mid 80s.
George Lucas ruins everything.
It's like you're going, hey, Twinkies have cream filling in the middle. Okay, you didn't pay attention to your Twinkies.
This is the shit. This is the reaction that I got out there. And I love it, and I love the circles that I run in. That's what I encounter. Like I thought I knew stuff, and I don't know. I don't know.
My reaction to that was like, I couldn't believe that you, Dan Shaheen,
I know,
King of the Universe, owner of comic stores, have a million conversations all the time. Well, I just thought it was funny. So that's
it's one of those things that's right in your face. Because when I say it's not obvious, they do fucking say 1935 in big, bold, white letters, like the beginning. So
it's
but how do you know?
I'll play devil's advocate and be like, unless you've memorized the fact that Raiders takes place in 36, I mean, that it's like, okay, yeah, it takes place in the past. Got it.
Although if you had asked me what year Raiders takes place, I would have said later than 36. I think because I'm just thinking. I thought it was in World War II, but I guess it was pre-America and involvement in World War II. I just, I was 9.
The thing I think is funny about this is like, why does anybody give a shit? It's just another adventure of Indiana Jones, right? Oh, this one takes place before Raiders or after? Literally nothing in Temple of Doom matters whether it's before Raiders or not.
That's what I mean. That's why
it's
that's why it's not obvious.
You didn't know it? Oh, here's the thing we get to make fun of you about. That's
yes,
my level
Larry,
of interest.
Canon. What about the Indiana Jones canon?
Yeah, that's a Chris Sagasag question, actually. I imagine that's what his little thing is there. Is for Dan going, Dan, how do you not know that? if it makes you feel better, I always, from back then to roughly now, until I met Chris a few years ago online, thought that Indiana Jones, you could tell how old he was by what year it was, which is why I took notice of the years, right?
Yes, yeah.
So he's 36 in
Right.
1936, and
Right.
so that's why I have that in my mind. But Chris said, no, Johnny, his birthday is like July 1st, 1999 or 1899. So he's actually like less than one in zeros in 1900. So I got schooled, but I will take that, especially from Chris, because Chris knows that stuff more than me. So you should just think that, all my friends know Raiders better than I do. It's not like you forgot how to pee or something.
Larry, if only you spoke Jovitos.
The reason, the big thing that's jarring about it is because it always occurred to me, like, what happened to Marion in that? I always thought, I'm like, but I just assumed that Indy was just a player and he's on to the next woman.
You were 9. That's what that is. Literally every teenager went, fuck yeah, another hot girl. Way to go, Indy. What's your middle name? James Bond? But like when you're 9, like, dude, nobody.
But I mean, James Bond had a new chick every movie, so it was like, okay, that's James Bond can do that too, and it doesn't really matter. Anyway, I've sidetracked us so much here, but I feel
what year does James Bond take place? Oh no.
1961.
Yes.
Oh, I don't know. I had a student whose father believes that his uncle was one of the inspirations for James Bond, and has gone on this collecting spree, and so gave me a really nice present, like a copy of Man with the Golden Gun, and some stationery from one of the hotels he
that's
allegedly
cool.
stayed at, and it's pretty interesting.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Are you a big Bond fan?
I'm not a super fan, but I'm definitely more than your average fan.
I know a couple of guys, like my buddy space lawyer Dave Galena, Joseph Galena. He who was gonna get you on Good Morning America, man. We could have got you on there. Anyway, he's a giant Bond fan, and my big Bond story is John Suntrays and friend of the show, Robert Meyer Burnett or whatever his name is. We're all talking about, I was on a show with them and we were talking about who's your favorite Bond director, and I was like, what?
Bond director?
I thought we were talking about Star Trek. I don't know anything about James Bond. I know who the actors are and I enjoy all the films, but I don't keep track of it.
I can't even tell you which film is which sometimes, because they all just kind of blend together into James Bond,
I'm trying to think if I can name a single director, or if anybody gives a shit.
No idea.
I mean, and there were some good action directors that did some, but I don't think about it. The name that comes to mind when I think of James Bond is Broccoli, right? That's the name.
Right. Yeah, the Broccoli family.
Ken Adam did his production design, so I followed all that shit. There's a giant submarine and a submarine berth, and that's all inside the hangar over at Pinewood. That's the shit that drives me crazy. That guy made a working submarine in water make it sense in, Pinewood Studios. So I'll follow that guy forever. But the directors, I don't know.
Yeah, I'm terrible at all that. People will get me on Star Trek. They're like, "Oh, who directed this episode?" I'm like, "Dude, I don't know."
Joseph Pevney.
I don't know who directed the fucking episode. I can tell you what year it was and fucking the status of the Klingon High Council, but go fuck yourself.
That's why everybody gave Dantron shit about, you didn't know Temple of Doom was a prequel, though, because that seems like the kind of thing Dan should know. Right?
I absolutely. That's why I remarked on it. That's why I posted. I said I did not know until today, and to me that was a shocking thing that I should have realized it. And then Captain Fun comes out and he's like, Dan, I fucking say this every other post. And then I start thinking about it and I go, you know what? I do remember Larry, in the middle of a stream of consciousness thing, it'll be just like those people who, when Chris Sagasag and I say that Temple of Doom is a sequel, that blah, blah, and I'm like, holy shit, he's right. I'm not paying close enough attention to
See,
Captain.
that's what I was giving you shit about. You weren't
Please.
paying attention to my every utterance, and especially if Sagasag's involved. Come on, man, that's just like
But-
Plato and Socrates telling you what's up. And
I
you're
can
like, oh, I
actually
don't know.
remember. I can actually remember reading that one time, and it just sort of like deflecting off me like a BB, like, ding! And I'm just like, oh, Temple of Doom's a sequel. Larry's
Well,
always
this'll
right,
be-
so he must be or a prequel, so he must be right. But like, I didn't think about it.
This will be great because once Loki season 2 comes out, that'll be one of the time stream things that they nip. That you'll come back. You're supposed to have known that this whole time.
Yeah.
And-
Now I'll come back and say that. In Last Crusade, I never realized it bookended both ends of the saga of the blah blah. Fuck you guys, because it's a
Well, that was quite
prequel.
an appropriate hand gesture for your Cerebus the Dictator shirt, which John Price probably doesn't. I was trying to lead you in that everybody has their area of expertise. Like John can drop, star dates and naval construction contract numbers and fuck you, 0982 doesn't make any sense. So how would you, I love when he goes off on that stuff because, it's like me with the Exeter, Like John, I love John forever because he goes, oh, that's just your thing. And that helps me in lots of areas of life. My wife will go off on something and I'll just think, okay, honey, that's your thing.
I just don't understand how everyone can say that what's his face, Terry Metalis, is so invested in canon, and then he makes an original Constitution class New Jersey NCC 1975. I don't understand how you can reconcile those two things. I understand he was born in New Jersey in 1975. Congratulations. However, the Constellation is NX 1974. So what the hell, man? It's
honestly,
clearly established that constitutions are in the 17s. So, I don't know, pick fucking New Jersey's start date or something and be like, 1714 or
drop
whatever.
a 0 from the zip code or something.
Right. Fucking asshole.
Yeah, can I tell you though, I love shitting on that guy and I love shitting on Stashwick and I love shitting on that idiot Dave Blass.
Facts. Yeah.
But I in this particular case, I can't blame Terry for that. Because you do know that all the video stuff is done, all the special effects is done completely separately.
I don't care.
I think somebody was just trying to give a shout out to the boss, and he went, "Oh, thanks," and didn't realize that people like you and me are just offended.
Do you know that as captain of the ship, you are responsible for all actions under your command? General Chang said it. I'm gonna say it again.
I agree.
Yes.
Anyway, they're
setting us up.
There was some other cool Star Trek thing I just read, and I'm like, oh, I won't even have to write that down. I'll remember that. And of course, my little brain. My next door neighbors are getting their roof replaced, so of course it smells like tar in my office, and there's just thumping that you can't get used to because it's not like a regular thump. It's just fucking crazy people on a roof.
We had our entire lawn mulched today. So it's been a 3-step process. First step is get rid of all the trash, right? Because we let our backyard overgrow. So it was all just trash. And then step 2 was pick and choose which plants we wanted to keep. And I just said, I want to make it all grass, but I lost. I lost that conversation. And then step 3 was mulch all the exposed parts so that bullshit wouldn't come back. So today was step 3, mulching, and the dog has already made quite a few holes.
This is going to sound stupid, but what'd you use for mulch?
I think they just used it was dyed probably just tree mulch. I don't know. I don't fucking know.
Yeah, like tree bark, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, that'll keep your weeds from coming out for a while. That's pretty good.
Well, they're professionals. If it was just me, I'd be like, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. But we're paying them, so hopefully they know what they're doing.
My dad was a big mulch guy. He had mulch opinions.
So
I don't feel it in my bones, but I apparently have mulch opinions too.
Yeah.
My dad would talk for a while.
Yeah, that's mulch ado about nothing, though.
Nice.
I get it.
Very nice.
Hey, speaking of dumb things, I thought about I thought of John Price. I think about John Price a lot when I'm doodling starship designs.
Yes.
I started thinking about this. Why not a starship that is basically just a holodeck with a warp core and a couple of nacelles on it. And then you just stuff 20 people into a holodeck and let the holodeck simulate the internals of a ship. So they think they have quarters. They're all walking, but they're literally just like kind of walking around like this next to you, but they don't know. It's because of the magic that is the holodeck.
I love it.
I think it'd be a great space saver and a cost.
I think that's a great idea
in these times. When I know the
we'll call it the USS Dave Blass is a douchebag. No, I think that's an interesting idea. Yeah,
I think it's a good enough idea that as you were talking, I was like, all right, how's that work? Two giant nacelles around a holodeck thing. You got to have control surfaces, man. But then it's like, well, that's a lot of power. And the fucking holodeck, as we know, because Dave Blass is an asshole, is on a separate power grid than the rest of the ship. And like, how would that work?
So Stagasag is correct. There is a holo ship in Insurrection, and it's big enough to take the entire Baku village. But I don't remember if
what that meant.
I don't remember if it was like a ship or if it was like something they were going to tractor. I don't remember.
And was it I don't remember. Was a holo ship meaning like they projected a hologram around it, or it was like
No, it was like you're saying. It's like a big ship, and the whole thing was a holodeck. Because they were trying. If you remember Insurrection, as we all do,
I don't.
They were trying to, in the middle of the night, they were going to transport all of the Baku villagers onto the holo ship, take them to somewhere else, and then offload them all before they woke up.
Is that the one with the plastic surgery and F. Murray Abraham? Yeah. I saw the movie once.
I don't want to derail again. I gotta show this message because this is gutted. This is like a gut punch to me.
Oh.
How do you do that? Wait a minute. Oh, you gotta hold this down. Sorry, I thought you were a comic store owner. I was curious if you had a video about that, if you ever considered it. Yeah, I've considered doing a video about comics and comic stores before. Go to YouTube and check all the videos down there. I did a lot of stuff with retailers and with many comic store owners around the country, many publishers, even distributors like Steve Jeppy, who, by the way, texts me dad jokes on the regular.
That's awesome.
Great jokes from that guy.
I love that.
Who's Steve Giuseppe?
Steve Jeppy is he's the head of Jeppy Family Enterprises and was which is the parent company of Diamond Comic Distributors, which was which 2 years ago was the monopoly on all comics distribution in North America, a legal monopoly, and now doesn't carry Marvel, DC, Dark Horse, or Image.
Why did that happen?
That is a fall from great, like an unbelievable set of circumstances that went on over the past couple.
Did everyone just like give him the finger, or like
kinda?
It was there was like a confluence of events that just sort of, when you're up at the top of your game, everybody's going to try to hate you.
It's so
there's
true.
A lot of that going on. But also the coronavirus, the pandemic killed it.
The pandemic kicked it off. It was the reaction to the coronavirus that gave the first domino the excuse to leave Diamond. DC broke their exclusive contract, and then that just opened the floodgates. And it's been. I mean, don't cry for Steve or for Jeppy or any of that stuff, because they've still got all of Europe. They still do plenty of toys and games. They own Alliance Game Distribution as well as Gerber. If you ever use any Mylar, you're buying it from Gerber.
How big are comics in Europe? Because don't you have to like speak English to read comics?
No. They're
translated. They're translated.
Yeah, there's the comic book industry in Europe is by far. I haven't done the math, but it's probably triple the size of the U.S.
Seriously?
Yeah.
Well, it's a completely different kind of market. The way they don't do. It's all graphic novels over there. They've been
it kind of always has been. They never went through the like really shitty ephemeral thing like England did, because
fucking England.
That whole thing with you dodging that thing just cracks me up.
Sorry.
But yeah, a lot of the books that we published, the non-Astronauts in Trouble books that Charlie Adler did with us, were done in a different style for the express purpose of appealing to the European reader. Because we knew that, yeah, for real.
I'm going to give Michael Cortez one piece of advice, because I've been wanting to open a comic book store since I sold my comic book store. I had one. I worked in one since I was a wee bitty kid and ran one for many years. Ran several for years. Don't. I can't give any more succinct advice than right now. I wouldn't, because there's so much flux in the industry. Like, personally, I would have opened one as a LARF. If the market was the same as 2019, all I would have really needed was like a diamond account and a couple of other things, and I could have been a full service comic book store. Now I don't even know all the people you need to contact and what you need to do. Anyway, it's exponentially harder. So the fallout of all this industry stuff has mostly fallen on retailers who across the board have lost discount. They've got shipping costs have changed a little bit, but they've all lost points, and they've all lost time, because now instead of one distributor, they have to deal with 3, 4, 5 different shipments on different days of the week. There's no more Wednesday is new comic book day. It's really hard right now.
But Twitter told me Wednesday is new comic book day.
It ain't.
Here's what I would tell Michael Cortez, because at the top of the thing we were saying everybody speaks for their own expertise. If I was going to like really looking into opening a store, not only would I not, but I would go to the coolest store in your area and tell the guy, I'll work for free for a month, like Lou Bank from from Dark Horse Comics did. So I understand what retailers do. I would do that. And one of three things will happen. At the end of it, you might be that guy's, manager, because he's tired and you did a great job for a month.
He might sell you the store. You never know.
He might sell you the store, or whatever. You might work there. You could have all the fun of being a comic store owner and not any of the responsibility, which is what I did. And that was a fucking blast. Because whenever something really went wrong, I'd go, Brian. And every time something went great, I'd take credit for it.
Yeah.
And I did that.
That's the way
and so that's the you got all the best parts of owning a store with none of the down. Or you would work there and you would leave after 3 days and going, this is fucking impossible. There's no way I can do this.
Or let's be honest,
you might make it work.
The most likely outcome of that scenario, depending on the store you go to, though, is that the guy's going to go, get the F out of my store. If you open up a store in my territory, I will set loose the dogs of war, whatever a comic shop guy would threaten to do. He would make some threat that was like geekily referenced.
Okay, there's that.
He would let slip the dogs of war, what have you.
All right.
But that is actually the best advice that I've ever heard for somebody to open a comic book store. That is the first thing that you need to do. Because if you haven't worked, like I worked in one from when I was 11 to I was 18. So I knew what it meant to run a comic book store in that era. But like, if I was going to open one right now, that's what I would have to do. I'd have to go to my local guy and go like, let me sit in. Let me help you.
Like an internship.
Yeah. And then also remember, if you can do anything, and I mean anything, if you could flip a burger at McDonald's, if you can do that, you will make more money than you're going to make in your first 5 years. That's
kind of the thing that people don't want to hear. It's like, if you're opening a comic store, there's so much more different ways to make more money with less hassle and wear and tear on your soul.
Nobody wants to hear that. That's ridiculous.
A lot of ways.
But if you love it, then that shouldn't stop you, right? But if you love it, you're not doing it for money, because if you're doing it for money, you like even Michael Cortez would probably make more money as a gigolo, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
this is what I'm saying. You drive razor, you're going to make more money.
Yeah. And the fact that no one cares what happens, it's just.
And then combine that with the fact that you're going to be working 4 or 5 times as hard as you would in any of those jobs for less money than you would make in one of those jobs. And you've got to be let's just say a special individual to do it. I did it for 8 years and I just couldn't take it anymore.
Michael must know about the hashtag that went around yesterday about comics broke me or whatever.
Oh, I saw that.
Eeyores were talking about how shitty the comic book industry is. It's like, I didn't even have to read it because, like, I know. But you know what? So what? The comic book is shitty. If you want to open a comic store, Michael, fucking do it.
Do it.
Don't listen to us. But it's not good. Chances are super high. It's not going to be what you think.
And at no time in history has anyone ever asked the question you've asked of anyone and gotten the answer, oh, yes, it's a great idea. It's the road to fame and fortune. But yet we all did it anyway. Like, everybody told me it was the worst thing that I could do. But I account it among the most important experiences in my personal and professional career. I made friends there. I made skills there of running a small business and programming skills and everything else that carried forward into what I'm doing right now. So
you're saying you would do it again?
If I was 20 again doing it, if I was in my 20s again, then yes, I would. Would I do it right now at this age with 2 kids and mortgages and whatever? No, I wouldn't.
But nobody in their 20s is opening comic book stores either, because who gives a shit, right?
It's comics are lame.
Yeah. So,
hard.
You know, everybody in their 20s, you know, thinks Chris Evans is Captain America, not Jack Kirby, right?
Yeah.
So, you know, anyway.
It's true.
Oh,
he's a really good Captain America, though.
I just got an email alert that said my parking is ready for the San Diego show. So,
oh, nice.
That's awesome.
Warren says crystal meth manufacturers make a.
I saw a thing about that. It was the guy from Power Rangers was in it.
I have a great idea. I was telling my kid, "Hey man, you want to make movies? Cocaine Bears, where's that? Right?
Yeah.
So let's do Crocodile, right?" And then I was like, "What's an animal with meth?"
Crocodile. Stop right, Crocodile. What do you get?
That's me. What do you mean? There's lots of crack in the sewers, man. He comes out, starts eating people.
Flushing people. A guy drug dealer flushes their stash.
Writes itself.
In Florida. Hello.
Okay, but that's easy. Anybody comes up with that one.
Yes,
Come up with an animal that has meth in it. And we couldn't do it. We went and had dinner instead. But pick a cool drug, heroin, whatever, and match it with an animal that's like Cocaine Bear or Crocodile. And then you've got your own, you know, franchise. Like, you can sell that to Warner Brothers instantly.
I'll make that a mission. I'll try to figure that one out.
Come on, John, you have a heavy drug history. Come on. And you like animals.
Have no comments. I did. I was telling a story the other day about I was like, so yeah, you know, back in it's like college story. I was like, yeah, I was really high, and then this happened, and it's like, dude, we're at school. You can't say that.
Don't worry, here on the internet though. It's all
on the internet. It'll go nowhere.
You said that at school, huh? I could see.
I wasn't thinking. It was
I'm just saying. That's why I can't leave my house. I don't even see anything wrong with that. What, you know?
It's like, what? It wasn't now. I'm not doing it now. Jeez.
I got one more thing to say to Michael Cortez. If I was going to do this today, I think what I would do is I would say I would open a bookstore.
Nice.
And I would sell and I would consider myself a specialty bookstore. And I would because now there are enough comics that you could literally fill an entire bookstore. Brian Hibbs has done it. You could fill it with all the graphic novels from around the world and everywhere else, and you could specialize in that kind of thing. I might try it that way and do subscription services and do it really tight and make as much profit as possible and use that profit to invest in the different stuff.
You definitely need to make it a destination now in the post-Rona world, because actually, you know, I love comics. My kid loves comics, and it's kind of a struggle to get there twice a month, right? Because there's so much other shit going on. And if you really care, you just order it from Amazon or eBay or go to Westfield, a real subscription service, and you get that crazy discount and just get a box of comics, and who cares, right? But part of it is you want to talk about the latest thing with other people who know what you're talking about. And so if you make the comic store just doesn't do that anymore. You need to have like a little cafe, or like here's a tapas sampling place, but also like
Ooh,
two
tapas.
sides of it is just all the fucking comic books you can read and models and games and shit, and there's places to sit. If you make that a destination with that sort of nerd thing, Michael, do it up. Don't call it Heroin Elephants though, because Warren stole that one already.
Do what Larry said, and you too can.
Teenage Meth Pipe Ninja Turtles. That's a winner.
That's pretty great. And wait a minute, I decided to ask artificial intelligence, and I got a really lame answer. So here,
because their AI is lame.
We can't joke about drugs. So daddy will get mad or something. Holy shit.
Boo. Oh well.
This is why we need to destroy the robots.
Yes. Oh my God. I was looking at something, getting ready for a Loki, and I ran across a giant 300 post thing on Facebook about killing sentient robots.
Yes.
And how like robots are fine, but if you can pass for human, that's not good.
No.
In the Loki world. And I'm like, man, I hope they address that. Anyway.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to Loki, if that means anything. It's like, because Strange New Worlds is coming out Thursday, Flash is coming out Friday, something's coming out the 21st. Oh, Secret Invasion, that Nick Fury gets.
Nick Fury's finally getting a thing. This is like the first Marvel thing I care about in a very long time.
Oh, you love Nick Fury, huh? That's cool.
I do. I love Nick Fury. I love Samuel Jackson. I mean, who the fuck?
Who doesn't? Right?
Who doesn't? And it looks cool. It's like it's not him in like an office. It's him like running for his life and shit. So cool. Let's do it.
I love and honestly, all the kids will have to suck it up about Ms. Marvel or Captain Marvel, because the whole thing is all the Skrulls from that movie. So they're just Marvel just does this crazy cool thing that, like, hey, you're gonna love our movie, and if like only half the people love it and the other half have quibbles, the next chance they get, like 3 movies later, they completely redeem all that shit that you didn't like in the first thing. It's insane how they do that. It's like, we meant to do this the whole time, and now you love it, right?
They're very smart. Enough goodwill that they can actually power through a bomb without killing the franchise, right? Like it used to be in Hollywood, you had one bomb, the likes of like Eternals or whatever, and they're gonna lose. They're gonna be like, forget about it. We're done with this thing. We're on to Vampire Junkies this year, or whatever the new hot thing is gonna be. But like this one, they got legs. They're like, dude, we could have a couple flops. We could have some critical hit, this or that. All we need is a couple of mega hits, and they're almost guaranteed to get them now.
I just love how everybody considers like the Eternals a flop. It's like, how is that a flop? That's like one of the best Marvel movies ever.
I haven't even seen it. That's the only reason it's a flop to me.
But that's the thing. It's like people are like, oh, well, this was a little outside of the regular Marvel thing, so I don't like it. So therefore, me not liking something equates it's a flop.
I just mean it had critical. It was critically panned by many.
I'm really not addressing you. I'm addressing its critical reception. It's absolutely wrong. Like people just went, oh, this will be the one that Marvel didn't do right, and it's like, no, it's just you didn't get it. And that movie opens with a Pink Floyd song that's thematically appropriate and ends with a giant, celestial solidified as the new place to hold Coachella.
Right.
Like,
which hasn't been addressed since, right?
We'll see, right? I think about 3 more movies, Marvel will go, yes, we heard you about that. And now an entire movie takes place on that island. Right. That wakes up,
what's great is when you think about how many cards Marvel's still holding that we all know about, like comics fans know about, like all the Fantastic Four stuff we have not even seen, not even touched the Mole Man or anything like that. Kazar and the Savage Land, all that great stuff. Like, ready for it.
Agreed. Like, how do we not have Kazar and the Savage Land? That's what the first X-Men movie should be. Well, the entire planet knows who Wolverine is. The entire planet knows who Nightcrawler is. Just fucking cast it again if you want with 20-year-olds, and just the fucking plane crashes in the Savage Land.
I kind of like that the way they've let it cool off though, and they are giving it a little room to breathe. Yeah. And we know it's going to be there, and it's going to be and let them do cool stuff. Can't wait, man! Can't wait.
What's the new? There was just new FF news. Oh yeah, Adam Driver and Margot Robbie who were offered the parts. The negotiations broke down because they wanted too much money because they know that that's what they're doing for the next 10 years.
Right. Yeah.
And the negotiations broke down. I could not be happier
You
because
don't need that from me.
Adam Driver's the worst pick.
I don't
like
him.
My son would be a better Reed Richards than him. Just put the gray in your hair. And he's not.
He would be a good Dr. Doom.
Sure, put him in a helmet, right?
Because he does intense. He's very good at doing intense, right?
Mm-hmm.
And like that's just not a dorky scientist from the 50s.
And then Margot Robbie.
This is the extent of my Fantastic Four knowledge, by the way.
I don't think it's hard to cast.
That's good though. Nice job.
I don't think it's that hard to cast Reed or Sue. I think it's Johnny Storm is you've got to get the right charismatic person for that, and then like the thing is like the emotional weight of the Fantastic Four. So like, you gotta get somebody there.
You know, people are gonna hate this because, of course, as a white guy with a beard and bald, I'm the face of the patriarchy. Mm-hmm. But the way it's set up, and it's not my fault. It's Stanley and Jack Kirby in the '60s. It does not matter who Sue Richards is. Doesn't matter. Blonde girl. You want a good actress, sure. And you want good chemistry with Reed and good chemistry with Termo Nuerda, whatever his name is, because he's going to come in and that's going to be a whole soap opera where Namor's stealing Sue away from Reed. But I do think it matters who Reed is because I'm going to die getting there's a function of Marvel Universe in the comics that happens once a year in something that hasn't happened in the movies yet is the giant big brain conversation of Tony Stark, Bruce Banner, Dr. Octopus, and Reed Richards, where something is so fucking bad, you need the 4 smartest guys on the planet who all think that they are the smartest guy on the planet. You know, and that's always a blast to read, and it's probably blast to write. But
I'm going to disagree with you, though, about Sue Storm because I would say that for the Invisible Girl, as Stan and Jack characterized her, but like when she became Invisible Woman, and John Byrne took over and really upped the ante on what her powers like and made her arguably the most powerful member of the Fantastic Four that I think there's room for, but it's hard for me to pick up like what's her personality trait. Yeah. Besides blonde.
It's not a character thing. She doesn't have a character. Right. So that's what I mean. It doesn't matter. It's like Margot Robbie. Sure. But you know, Amy Schumer could do it. You know what I mean? It doesn't matter.
Yes.
She needs chemistry with Reed. Like that's Patton Oswalt as Reed.
Amy Schumer doesn't have chemistry with anybody. Like literally.
I think what's his name? Krasinski. Is that who played Reed in that alternate universe? That's good enough. Like to me, they got it already. He'd be fine.
I hope they just go, oh, this whole thing was just some schmay to rile up the fanboys. And then it's been Krasinski all this time, and he's just laughing in his house.
Totally.
How great is that term?
And it might as well
be. Fucking schmay.
You don't like it?
No, I love it.
Oh, I do too.
I'm saying, how great is that?
It's so perfect.
Arnold Schwarzenegger just keeps enhancing our lives. You know.
But my other pick for Reed would be George Clooney.
Yeah, I see that. But
right age, right?
You see him like signing a 10-year contract though? I don't.
No.
It's got to be somebody who's around 30 right now and ages into the part. Like 30 is probably the youngest you want to go.
What's his face?
Bear in mind that you're gonna be
the guy who played Bane.
Oh, Tom Hardy.
Yeah.
I see that.
That's
cool.
Bear in mind that as Reed Richards, you are going to be a special effect 99% of the time that you're on screen too. Right. So they can make whoever they want as young as that.
That's right.
No, that's not true. Do you think he's 99% of the time? The world's smartest man is like stretching his
in this movie,
world's largest.
In this movies he will be for sure. Yeah, they got it. They've yet to do what's a movie where they've done stretchy guy well.
The Incredibles?
Because stretchy, yes. Okay, but that's a great answer. That's about the only answer. But even that was in a very cartoony way. Like
it's a cartoony superpower. It comes from cartoons and comics.
Stretch Armstrong.
Yeah.
Because
I think it's possible to do it, but like you're not going to do it 99% of the time because it looks ridiculous, right?
It does.
So
It does look ridiculous.
well, there's different rules for different guys that stretch. Like Reed Richards is a different stretcher than Plastic Man. Like Reed Richards isn't a shape changer much. He is, but only to like generically large shape. Like there's rules to it that if they get it right, it stays true to the visually.
Dude, he used to change his face in that Burn Run when they lived in
Yeah,
suburbia.
yeah. He started getting more. And
That
I
was
love
a subtle thing.
The best was when Grant Morrison had him stretch his brain, so he grew.
He was
so
smarter.
Yes, he was smarter, and he could outsmart Dr. Doom. That's that we love that.
That's
the
Grant,
the Changelings in DS9 did a really good stretch thing where they would stretch and they would wrap around. Yeah.
Yeah, I really like the water creature in Abyss too, actually, for stretching. Oh, speaking of Dan and his stuff, yes, I was just gonna say, did you see this Mission Impossible thing he did? Can you play that again, Dan? That
was
so
hang on a second.
He worked out this thing that he took a picture of him and it drops like rubber. Isn't that crazy?
I've been working on the techniques for taking that stuff from Luma Labs that we talked about, Larry, and then adding. You have to simplify it dramatically. It takes a lot of work, and then you got to apply physics settings to it and stuff. But like,
I will tell you that October 16th is my birthday, and if you just have a picture of me where Tom Cruise's Mission Impossible mask drops off, I would be so happy.
Oh my God, Larry! Let me just say, if you Luma Labs yourself, get Walker to just walk around your head with a movie and take a picture, take a movie picture, and give me that. I'll make it for you. I swear to you.
That's so funny. You totally will get me to do that because once we do that, then you have a thing you can print out, right? And then. Or you have it. You can make an STL file from that, right? And so then
you can convert it to an STL.
Yeah. And so then I just print out my head and put all my masks and helmets on it.
We got it all for you. Larry.
Let's do it. And then,
speaking of STLs, what did you think about the new guys? The new transition here, featuring. Speaking of STLs.
Yeah, that was fantastic seeing that. Yeah, in the opening. Yeah,
that's
I felt like my name was Dave Porter actually when I saw that. I was like, I'm proud for Dave on that one, and I'm glad you did that. So nice job.
That's the new official default transition of Serious Star Trek, right there, Dave. Thank you so much, buddy.
Yeah, man, that was cool of you. Thank you. All right, so what? Oh, Peacemaker. Speaking of comics, and Walker says to me, "Hey, Daddy, you like that Peacemaker show, right?" And I thought he was joking with me. I'm like, "What? You remember that we loved it, and I was the one that made everybody watch it, and then I watched it again a week after it finished." He's like, "Oh yeah. Oh, you probably like this comic," and it was just so funny that like when we were kids, the comics, were just everything really. Maybe you get a Dolph Lundgren Punisher movie every once in a while. Or what was the other dumb one that? Brigitte Nielsen as Red Sonja.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that's one of my favorite movies. Can we talk about Red Sonja? I fucking love that movie. And the not Conan, that's definitely also Conan.
Even a good movie. Even the production company was like, "No, Conan's rights tied up, but this is Conan. He's just going by another name."
Yeah,
they just did the whole thing like that, and the audience was like, "Oh, that's Conan. Conan. This is when he's a thief and he's going by another name."
Yeah, done.
They kind of do that in Red Sonja comics anyway, right? Like,
it's so good. I didn't know that was
you would love Red Sonja comics, the old Frank Thorne ones from the 70s. That guy could draw.
I'm sorry.
Every issue was like Sports Illustrated with swords.
I have a Red Sonja boycott on this channel because the current publisher of Red Sonja comics is just he's such a jerk.
Who is it? Sorry.
I can't. You can look at it. You can do the investigation yourself.
Tell me the name of the company, man.
You can look it up yourselves. Let's just say it's an explosive company, and it's
is that Boom?
It's not. But that's the explosion themed comics company that should come to mind first, because the other one is just garbage. We don't need to talk about it, Larry. We don't need to talk about it.
I won't. I'm just dying to see who it is.
We'll get you the answer.
And they give you all the movies.
We'll get you the answer to that and much, much more. guys. Oh, by the way, this Friday this is a good segue to a promo really quick. This Friday is going to be my last comic book news for at least a couple of weeks while I go on vacation.
Yay!
I'm going to be interviewing again the return of Jean Luen Yang of American Born Chinese. I mean, I interviewed this guy back when it was a comic, and now it's a fully dropped, produced, watchable, live streaming Disney Plus series.
I thought it's not Netflix. It's
Disney Plus.
That's cool, man. Way to go, Gene. That's cool.
Awesome.
And
Disney money.
Hollywood big shot Gene Yang, as now he is to be referred to, but he's such a cool guy, and he was from my area. He's from the San Jose Campbell area too. So it was like I've known him since last century when he was making these comics, and to see him now, he's writing Superman comics for DC and having his own work adapted into humongous mega series. I don't know. I couldn't be more proud. That'll be fun on Friday. Tune in live to that and ask annoying questions, won't you?
Yay!
I saved my annoying questions for Don Simpson.
Oh my gosh, Don Simpson, another guy. I hear from him a lot. Let me just say that. All I can say is he's officially told me. I just out of nowhere I got a message that just said, Dan, I will not be involved in the Giant Size 1963 annual project in any way going forward, and I don't have to explain myself to anyone. So
He's right.
And he's right.
Wow.
And he's right.
He's right.
Do you know why? I mean, or is he just right that he doesn't have to explain himself?
We'll talk about it in the green room.
All right. I disagree. I think as a public figure whose people enjoy his output, he needs to explain himself a hair. He can't just go, I'm not involved. Good luck, everybody.
Because I asked him if he wanted to do a pinup, and he said, maybe, Dan, you want to buy? I said, and I would like to buy the original. And then he told me what the price was, and I was like, okay, I would still like to think about it, but I have to talk to my wife and everything else. And then he sends me a picture of a pinup, and he's like, "How about this one, Dan?" And I'm like, I mean, one, if I was going to spend that kind of money, and I would, because it's beautiful, I would want to pick the, what's going to be drawn.
Sure. Yeah.
That's all. That was my only thing. But I didn't say any of that stuff. So who knows? It could have been me that queered the deal. Could have been.
Dan did not give me the proper supplication.
But I don't think so. What he told me is he's having some trouble. He was talking with the editors and stuff, and it's an all fan run and contributed project. And like they don't, surprise, not everybody has submitted all of their pages yet. Right. So,
yeah.
Oh, well.
Talk about reasons to quit doing comics. It's the people.
But would it be more helpful if you own the store?
You mean the building?
I don't know what's the most heartbreaking.
Joke.
What's the most heartbreaking career you can have in comics, Larry? Would it be like a retailer who put all their money up for a store that just crashes and burns and does nothing?
I reject the premise of the initial question because the heartbreaking aspect of the show is little dick crybaby weasels who haven't learned how to treat it like a business. Because they love Spider-Man.
Yeah.
So everybody who runs things is like, come on with us, guy who loves Spider-Man. Drawing Spider-Man should be its own reward. And they just ass rape everybody and keep the money. Well, of course that's heartbreaking but you have to blame your parents and your shitty upbringing and your bad choices through life because that's what it is. And
it's funny because that's it. And there's a never-ending line of those schmucks.
Yep.
And they're lining up in multiple lines. They're lining up to run comic book stores. They're lining up to try and write and draw for Spider-Man. They're lining up and trying to publish comics and stuff too. And some are going to succeed and some won't. The odds are against you, but
that's why I love somebody like Gene though, because he just keeps plugging away because he loves it, right? And then at some point, the world happens where they align and discover him, and then all of a sudden he looks like an overnight success. Where guys like us, hey, our local hero, way to go, pal. We've known him for 20 years, right? But everybody else is like, what a embracing new talent on the scene. And it's like, he's got like all this cool stuff you can buy already. It didn't just come out of nowhere. And but nobody wants to do that. Anyway.
The amount of work Gene put into comics that at the time is like this was not the road to fame and fortune for sure. Now it's almost like trendy theme, but it's like he was the trailblazer doing that stuff when nobody wanted Asian themed nonfiction like
very trendy right now.
What
Very trendy.
He's not really blazing the trail. That was all Dave Sim and this is the guy that did Bone, Jeff Smith. And Wendy and Richard Pini, speaking
of those were his inspirations in self-publishing for sure. I meant for his thematically, the stuff that he was putting in.
But everybody blazes a trail. That's only, and you're doing the cool thing that you like Walking Dead. Like there was a million zombie comics, except everybody liked the one Kirkman did, right? And there's a million superheroes, but like
it's
only
Marvel, it's all execution. And luck plays a big part in
absolutely, absolutely. But then that goes in the no one wants to hear it's business, right? Because you can't account for luck and you can't account for talent and you can't account for all the intangibles, right? But that's all everybody sees. Like, oh, here's my 12-volume thing that's going to be amazing. And I'm like, dude, nobody's going to publish that. They've never heard who you are. But George Lucas did it. I'm like, well, no, he didn't. George Lucas won Oscars for American Graffiti before he tried Star Wars.
Yeah, and had experimental films.
George Lucas is also a liar.
Then it was a giant piece of luck that Alan Ladd was like at 20th Century Fox I kind of get this when nobody else did. So like, that's why I think Gene is amazing. And all these other people are just crying.
Yeah.
Did you go down that rabbit hole of like hashtag comics broke me? I read three things and I was like,
not yet.
Oh my God, man. Like you were broken before comics got involved. Anyway, nobody wants to hear that. I'm a dick because like comics is a commercial art that's 50% comics and 50% commerce. And no one wants to hear that because nobody grows up going, I can't wait to, do my ROI spreadsheet, I was thinking about this the other day, actually, that somebody was giving somebody shit about something they did in comics. And I'm like, man, the things that you're complaining about, I used to get shit for giving people that every 3 months on the calendar, you would get spreadsheet that shows where every comic of yours sold, right? What we have left in stock, where those are in Canada, every 3 months. Like that was kind of all Mimi did, right? And people are like, well, how come I only sold 17 comics in 3 months? Well, because your comic came out 2 years ago, right? I mean, there's that's cool that you got 17, right? And they're like, well, you're not reporting things correctly. And I'm like, look, I know that people are like this. So in the contract you sign, it says, we will open the books whenever you want, but you have to pay for it because we can't just do this for everybody every time somebody goes, this should be 20 and not 17, right? So go ahead and tell me you want to know where, like, you want to see where every single book went, and I'll do that for you, but it's going to cost you around $500 because you're getting my hourly rate. So you will have that information, or you need to shut up online because, dude, like, this is ridiculous. And it's because people just, they love it. And their mom told them that they can draw a really good Batman. And come on, everybody. It's a business. It's a business that's predicated on taking advantage of your love for whatever, Blue Beetle. Right?
There's so many. What's so funny is just that the most successful comic is so much of a small margin of the least successful movie or TV show or anything corporate America cares about. There's just not enough juice really to squeeze out of the comics lemon unless you're doing your own stuff and have the rights to it and whatever. And that's where I go. People can cry about the comics industry, but they have more opportunities to self-promote and sell their comics and do it their own way than ever before. So,
well, guys, on that note of serious Star Trek,
I was gonna say we're losing John fast.
Is it that time?
I'm just over here playing with my little starship.
Captain John pulled the red alert.
Oh my God, it's that time. All right, well, let's get
this is actually a very interesting conversation, and I'm just applying I'm just replacing comic with Star Trek and applying it to my summer plans.
What are your summer plans? Watching Star Trek.
I have to clean out the garage. That's what I have to do. But I also want to write down a couple of the ideas I have and actually like do that for the first time in a very long time.
I am missing John Price rants about Star Trek. I miss them so much. I'm not too proud to say that as your biggest fan. One night, I went and I'm like, I'm gonna go and look at John's videos from when the first season of
Oh my god,
of Star Trek
so
Discovery.
bad.
Where you just get lit and go, this fucking show sucks. And I was
This
like,
is bullshit.
I'm like, this is the best thing I've ever seen.
Well, Philo, what'd you miss? You missed everything, buddy. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
'Cause
sorry.
we gotta, but really,
Is
what
it
did
really
what did you miss? You missed a serious Star Trek that had very little, if any, Star Trek in it.
Just like
What?
Star Trek.
But I think that's going to change next time because we're going to have a fresh new episode of Strange New Worlds that at least you guys will have watched. I
not
may or
watching?
I don't know. We'll see. I'm going to try, but I'm getting
Are
ready to
you-
go on vacation.
I was just gonna say, where you're leaving town, right? So
Well, I will be here on an away mission, but I will be beaming into the show next week, but not the following week. I'll get you guys all set up. Look,
right, cool,
We'll
cool.
have the con on that for sure.
I'll have to take some Dan speaking things. I realized that putting the intro in is very like key. Like I don't know how to do that, so I just like start and go, "Hey,
Oh,
Chris
we gotta-
Sagsag, what are we doing?"
Yeah, okay. I'll show
It's
you.
like-
I'll cue you up how to do
Yeah.
at least that part. And
It's like you need that little Johnny intro. Da, 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 it's fucking Star Trek. Let's go.
I really feel like the intros help to my show.
I
It's
totally
just-
do, man.
It's what Larry and I were talking last time. To me, Star Trek is a key thing, but Larry, it's like I'm not a Star Trek. I'm not a Trekkie, right? But I'm a lover of the
Gentron's not a
golden
Trekkie.
age. I'm a
Alert
lover of the
security.
golden age of TV, of which Star Trek is an inextricable part. So, like, that's my angle on this whole thing. Okay, enough. Thank you guys.
Yeah, thank you, Dan.
We'll be back next week, all three of us, I think, and we'll be back talking about Star Trek. I hope Strange New Worlds episode 1, season 2 is good.
John, did you see they gave out the 6 episodes to other idiots?
Did they do that
Did
again?
they really?
Some
Jesus.
chucklehead on Heidi
Oh my
McDonald's
Jesus
comics
Christ.
beat.
All right.
What is wrong with these people?
I don't know.
I hate
Well, well, we're
We had a
gonna-
little handsome out love at the beginning, and fuck you, Star Trek.
This
at
is
the
why
end.
we can't talk about Star Trek anymore because I just hate it.
All right. Well, look, we'll be back next week to talk about it. We'll see if we can rekindle that love hate thing, and we'll be back for sure next Tuesday, 3 p.m. Pacific time. And you know where it's gonna be? I know where it's gonna be this time. It's gonna be on the internet.
What really happened here? Who was the cowboy who confronted Johnny and Larry that night? Was the old woman in on it too? Could Danny have been hallucinating? But if Dan was hallucinating, who ate house food? What about the mysterious behavior of the barbecue lid? Was it really the nanny? Does this story seem possible? Was the morgue attendant in on the deception too? Were there gases trapped within the milk bucket that caused the activity? How was the doctor able to send email without a computer? Was the sewing machine taken over by the spirit of Byron's grandmother? Could a plant really identify a murderer? Is it possible that a parrot could give a young girl the will to live? Was the sister's husband really the victim of amnesia? But then how do you explain the bullet hole in his phone? Is this story true? Can a fertilized octopus egg ingested into the human system actually grow inside the body? Do you believe this story?